I was just boasting to my aunt Ruth about I could do this, and I want to dance like Shirley Temple, and I'm just boasting. And she says, sweetie, do you know who Pearl Primus is?" And I said, "No." "Do you know who Catherine Dunham is?" I said, "No." "Do you know who Bilbo Jangles Robinson is?" I said, "No." She's like, "There's nothing worse than an educated fool." And I was like, "Did she just call me an educated fool?" And it just taught me that, I need to know my history. I need to know about those dancers that came before me, that paved the way for me to be where I am. Here I'm boasting about, I want to be Shirley Temple, not even realizing, recognizing the great dancer that Bilbo Jenkins was, that was dancing right next to her. So that's what got me interested in researching this.
That's beautiful. And so now you have an opportunity to talk about the origins of blacks in dance. Tell us more about that and what that means.
So, Black people have always danced, and it's a part of our culture, it's a part of our heritage, it's a part of who we are as a people. So, when I see the term Black dance, I always look at it from the perspective of who is speaking or reporting. As Black dancers contributed to the landscape of dance in America, um, we label their contributions Black dance, which suggests that this type of dance is outside of the mainstream of American dance. And so during the 60s, the term Black dance was invented by white critics who were uncomfortable with the art form they could not identify with or could not describe. So for me, Black dance encompasses the contributions of Black dancers and choreographers in the world of dance as a whole. It's the telling of our stories, it's a creation of an art which communicates our history, our existence, and our purpose. It is the recognition of the marginalization of our stories from American dance history.
That is beautiful. And I can imagine if we really took the time to study people like Diane McIntyre and Debbie Allen and Olatunji Babatunji, those who brought in Catherine Dunham, right? And Alvin Ailey, that's who we hear about all the time. But what about all the others that we have not heard about? I have a list here of Fred Benjamin and Blondell Cummings and Charles Rudolph Davis and Carmen de Lavadov and Ulysses Dove and Garth Fagan and George Faison and Edna Guy and Thelma Hill and Mary Hinkson and Jeffrey Holder, Judith Jamison, Billy T. Jones, Diane McIntyre, Donald McHale, Joan Miller, Arthur Mitchell, Charles Moore, Milton Myers, Elio Pomari, Pearl Primus, Audrian Rogers, Helen Tamaris, Clive Thomas, Sylvia Waters, Dudley Williams, Helmsley Winsfield, and Donna Wood. My God, we are just so rich in dance. And if we took the time and had more time to tell you those stories, tell me some of the stories that you know and some takeaways that we want our next generation of dancers to understand about blacks in dance.
Well, the biggest takeaway from me is that the majority of pieces, of choreographies that have come out of our Black dancers are pieces that bring to the forefront the stories of Blacks in America and what we've gone through, what we are going through, and what our purpose is. When I was going to this dance studio in Long Island, and I talked about wanting to go further in dance and wanting to study. My parents decided, said, "Well, let's send her to some place where we know they're going to tell us the truth," because they knew that the studio I was going to, no matter how much money we paid them, no matter whether I was good or bad, they're going to keep taking my money, and I may not progress, I may not get any better. So they decided to send me to Dance Theater Harlem. It took me an hour to get there, hour to get there, an hour to get home. I went on my own. My dad didn't want to let me go, but I cried and he let me go. But it was there that I learned the history of how Dance Theater Harlem came about. Arthur Mitchell started Dance Theater Harlem after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated.
Right.
And rather than take out his anger and frustration, he decided to do something positive and bring dance into his community. And so many others have done the same thing. When I graduated from college, I started dancing with the Rod Rogers Dance Company. Um, and being around these great artists and being around these great dancers is how I began to learn about our history. It was not in my history books. All those names that you just ran off, all those names were not in my history book. I have history of dance in America when I was in undergrad and graduate school. I've got the first and second edition, however many editions there were. Those names were not mentioned, and if they were just mentioned, it was just a mention. Janet Collins was just a mention. Raven Wilkinson was just a mention. So when we all celebrated Misty Copeland being the first African American dancer with the American Ballet Theater, there still wasn't as much talk about Janet Collins and Raven Wilkinson. And our young dancers need to know that they are following in the footsteps of so many great dancers. We need to hear these stories. These stories need to be brought to the forefront so that everyone can experience our Black girl magic and our Black boy joy.
That is beautiful. When I think about the history, I saw a document that you created about Blacks in history, Blacks in dance and history, and it went all the way back to like 1913. Tell me some of those uh, uh, notes that you compiled as you're going through your dissertation preparation and process.
Let's see. So going back to 19, even going back to let's see, going back to 1913, we have Darktown Follies, introduced the popular social dance Ball and the Jack, which was related to the plantation ring shout. Back in Africa, some tribes used their heels to tap out rhythms on sun-baked clay. Enslaved Africans did the same thing on the floors of their huts, of the boards of their dancing floors. So many of the, like I said, the dancers, the social dances that our kids do today, the street dances, so many of them are related to those dances. 1920, we have the Hampton Institute Creative Dance Group, was formed by Dr. Charles H. Williams. He was head of physical education, and his repertory included abstract works inspired by Negro spirituals, traditional African dances of foreign students. And so then some of our other colleges started creating concert dance groups as well. 1921, we had Shuffle Along by Noble Sissy and Eubie Blake. 1923, the Charleston was a big hit on Broadway. Oh my gosh, there's so many. 1941, Catherine Dunham appeared in Star Spangled Rhythm. 1943, Pearl Primus performs her anti-lynching solo, Strange Fruit. So like there's just so many, the history goes on and on. And as I said, each recognition is related to a purpose, to a story that needed to be told, that wasn't being told by mainstream. And so our Black dancers and choreographers, they created works, they created pieces which told the story. How, so many people, Alvin Ailey was mainstream, and his piece Revelations was about his experience of growing up in the Black church. So you still have today when people will go to see Ailey and see Revelations and just jump to their feet and just singing and shouting and screaming, and just not realizing, this story about the Black church is something that was so near and dear to his heart. And he told it in such a way that it just spread across where people appreciated and celebrated it.
That is amazing. Man, we can really go on I can do this for hours. But
Yes.
because we don't have hours, can you give us a closing statement? What do you want our children, our infants, our toddlers, our teenagers, our young adults to know about Blacks in dance?
I want our children today to know that the dances that they are doing, the dances that they are creating, their street dances, um, that they are remnants of the dances that have come from Africa, that are from the motherland. I want them to know when somebody tells them that, well, that hip hop dance you're doing, or that twerking that you're doing, or whatever that is, that's okay for you to do, but that's not what we do here. Know that that dance is to be celebrated. It is part of your history. It is part of who you are. I want them to know that they can do any type of dance that they want. So whether it is hip hop or modern or contemporary or lyrical or tap, that all of it is available to them, and there's somebody that came before them that has done it as well, and they are just to continue the dream.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate you, author of I Dance Become, because there is a host of information that you can share about that, about your movement that matters. And we just celebrate all that you've already accomplished and what you're going to do. The best is yet to come. Thank you, soon to be Dr. Susan Pope. God bless.
Thank you.